It's September 1st, 2021. This is going to be my final review on the Southern Perfection grass seed. It's been a year now, and I'm sad to report that I have not had complete success. Everything was looking so good until past month or so, and my yard has died. I don't know why. We have had some extreme heat lately. I've treated it several times for fungus, two types of fungus. Treated it 2 or 3 times now for insects or other pests. Haven't seen the first indication that there was any in my yard. But anyhow, it's been one of the best grasses I've ever grown in this section of my property, but it did not make it a full year. It's the 3rd week in July 2021, and I'm still looking at this Southern Perfection grass seed. I'm actually a little bit ahead of schedule here. This is 3rd week in July, and I was going to wait till mid-August to give my final review of this grass, but things seem to be changing. You know, it's a subtle change, but I don't have a good feeling right now. I could be wrong. We got a little shower going on right now that makes the sun obscured, so my camera works better when it's not bright sun. But you can see the brown spotches down there in the low spot of my yard, which the cause is still undetermined. Don't know if it was bugs, fungus, or something else. But you know, as I scan around most of the yard, it's still pretty green. It doesn't look healthy, but this is North Carolina, central North Carolina in the summertime, and it is horrible out here. You come out here in the afternoon and it just takes your breath away. It's not only hot, you know, in the 90s, but it's so humid that it's very uncomfortable. And I don't think this grass likes it as much as, say, some of the southern blends. Although this is called Southern Perfection, it's basically a cool season grass. But anyhow, I just want to go ahead and document this today while the lighting conditions were right. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks for my final review. I will say this grass has lasted longer than anything I've tried in the past decade. But I always end all my videos with a but. But will it make it a full year? Debatable. It's been more than a month and a half since this area turned brown, and today I ran my dethatcher across here with almost 0 results. The roots on this brown grass are still viable. I mean, they're locked down. I don't know what that means. Yeah, it looks awful. Is it possible that when the weather cools off, this sunshiny grass, I mean, you can look at the rest of my yard, still green, still green, still green. But down here where I don't have trees, it's brown. Is it possible that this grass is going to turn green again once the weather abates? You know, it gets a little cooler. I don't know. Oh, by the way, it's still the 3rd week in July. What do you think about this grass? I'll get down here and show you. Is this the kind of grass you want? I mean, it's really nice. Really nice, except for the darn brown spots. I don't know. I'm really confused about this. I'm so used to working with tall fescue. I just don't know. Ironically, in recent years, my biggest problem has been in the shady area. I mean, I call this the gauntlet right here. This is the gauntlet. Look at this. It's beautiful. But then when you get out there, especially since I just cut that tree down recently, that is the only area that looks awful. Go figure. You think it's heat stroke? Could it just be the heat? I don't know, guys. I'm like you, you know. That's what this is all about. I'm confused. I put down the fungicide, insecticide, I fertilized. I've done just about everything I can, but here we are 6 weeks into it and it still looks the same compared to everything else. Let me just show you. This is a beautiful yard, especially with the trees hanging over it. The first time ever. I've been here 15 years, 10 years of like doing experiments with different grass seeds, and this Southern Perfection has just done so well compared to everything else. Third week in July, I've never had a cool season grass last that long under these conditions. Now, I'm not a botanist, so I don't want to say, hey, this is a fine fescue, but I will say that I got common sense and I got two eyes, and if this is a fescue, it is finely bladed. It almost looks like a summertime grass. Almost looks like Bermuda, but I know Bermuda will not grow in this situation. I've tried that many times before. I don't know. Okay, we're going to keep our eye on this. It's either going to get better or worse, but here we are, you know, going into the third week since I've cut this thing. I'm not going to cut it. This might be the kind of grass you have to go a month without cutting it. I've done that before. But everything up in the shade still looks good. All right, fella. The big mystery and the final results are not in yet. We got another few weeks to go. Appreciate you watching. There's a few areas, just because my extension cord was causing me to stop in certain places. This will give you an idea of what the lawn looked like before I started dethatching. Okay, so it wasn't like it was completely gone. It still had some grass around there. Right here is a patch of grass that has not been cut since the day I seeded it. That was in September of 2020. So it's been almost a year. And I never used a weed trimmer or anything like that on my yard. I used my lawn tractor to cut this grass for the past year. And where I couldn't get my tractor, you know, close to the rocks and everything, I just left it because it wasn't growing very fast. All right, let me get down here and show you. How tall is that grass? It's not even hand tall. So if you're really lazy and you don't enjoy working in your yard, and if you live in a place that doesn't have adverse conditions like me, this may be the perfect grass for you. Let me walk over here on the other side of my porch. Same thing here. This is grass that has never been cut. I'll take a brick. Here's a brick and I'll stand it up behind this grass. I think a brick is 8 inches long. So yeah, some of this grass is more than 8 inches tall. But to tell you the truth, this reminds me of grass that I bought years ago for shady areas. And it grew slow. And I'm not an expert on grass, but I'm telling you that if I'd never cut my whole yard for a year, it would not surprise me if it all looked like that after 1 year. And I never cranked up my mower at all. But that's just a guess. Yours might be different. Here, and give you a close-up of the destroyed part of my yard. Get in a little closer. And as you can see, you know, even though I did pull up a lot of thatch, there's still green left. And who knows, if I waited till mid-September, you know, that would give it a whole year. This stuff may, you know, just perk right up and say, hey, we love the fall weather, and give me another growth spurt. But I don't have the patience for that. I'm sorry. I love working in my yard, and this year was totally different. My recommendation is this: if you live in suburbia and you have a typical suburban lawn, that means none of these centuries-old trees. You know, a typical lawn where you're going to have sunshine and everything, and it's not up and down like the waves on an ocean, and you don't want to cut it yourself or pay somebody to cut it every week, then this might be the perfect grass for you. The only other grass that's lasted as long as this did in my shady area and other adverse issues was the Jonathan Green Black Beauty Ultra Supreme. The only difference between that and this is that the Black Beauty required cutting every week, maybe every 4 or 5 days, year round. I mean, I was cutting it in the winter and everything. This, it's been a month since I cut this grass. So this could be the grass for you. It's not the grass for me. I can't say anything negative about the company or their grass other than the fact that, hey, it didn't satisfy my need to ride around on my lawnmower with a beer in one hand and my other hand on the steering wheel. So that's just me. I'm going to clean all this thatch up, and still got about 2 weeks before I reseed. I'll be telling you about that in a future video. I think I'm going to try something called Triple Threat this year. It does not contain any Kentucky bluegrass. It's all turf-type tall fescue. But once I get this cleaned up, we'll give it a couple of weeks, and whatever's left here, you know, we'll come back and make my final video and give you an idea of, you know, a better picture of how this thing did after a complete year. For all I know, it might all be brown. It's also equally possible that these bare areas might just go ahead and come to life. We'll see. I appreciate you watching, and I'm sorry if this has been a disappointing way to end a year. But if you feel that way, imagine how I feel. Thanks again. This is a section of my yard where I did not put the Southern Perfection. This is just some cheap tall turf-type fescue that I planted last summer. And as you can see, it's also suffered. My junk grass, I got plenty of that. You know, things that aren't really grass. I'll show you one more section. This area back here was my attempt to grow centipede from seed. complete failure. I do have a lot of runoff when it rains here, but this centipede experiment also failed. That did not have anything to do with my southern perfection. I'm just trying to say that, hey, the southern perfection was not the only thing that failed. I'm out here by my reservoir, and this is a sunny spot in my yard. It's hard to see because I just used the weed eater out here yesterday, but this was centipede grown from seed. Even though in my backyard in the shade, total failure, out here this stuff is going crazy. I mean, it's growing more than an inch a week. I struggle to keep it in check. And then up my hill, I don't do anything with this. This is just crabgrass and other types of weeds, clover, and it stays green all summer. You know, you can look out there. It looks pretty from a distance. That's not a lawn turf. That's probably what I'm going to do next year, is just let this thing go wild. But wish I had better news for you. I may go ahead and add some clips to this video of things that's happened in the past couple of months to see the progression of the death of this yard. And maybe you'll have some idea of what to expect for your yard if you have adverse conditions, or maybe have an idea you can share with other viewers as to what I might have done wrong here. All right, thanks a lot. I'll be back in a week or two with the newest experiment we're going to do for 2021-2022.